This is One on One. We're pleased to welcome Dr. Maureen Gillette, Dean of the College of Education and Human Services at Seton Hall University. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, Steve.
We're both, let's disclose, we're both Seton Hall Pirate fans, basketball team.
We are. We follow basketball. That's where I met you the first time. So
that's right. Glad to meet you here now and wish for a good season for Seton Hall next year. But let's get to education. You have a very clear philosophy of what it takes to educate our children, particularly in urban schools. Talk about it.
So I was a teacher for 12 years before I decided to go back to graduate school and to get a doctorate, feeling like I could make a bigger impact working with people who wanted to be teachers. So I grew up in the second largest city in Illinois on the east side of Aurora and was pretty familiar with the kinds of issues that urban schools address, and worked with a diversity of kids and developed my own philosophy about working with parents, community, family, community agencies for the betterment of kids to be sure they are academically successful, social and emotionally successful. So I've spent my lifetime in this business, and it's why I get up in the morning.
Let's talk about this. If I were to ask you, and there are many more than this, Doctor, but 3 keys to successfully educating our students in urban areas include?
So I think number one is schools need strong leaders and strong teachers. One big issue in urban schools today is there's a lot of instability, there's a lot of school closures, and I don't know how you went to school, but I walked to my neighborhood school.
Newark, New Jersey, walked every day.
So I'm a big advocate of neighborhood schools so that kids have teachers and principals who know them, know their families, understand the issues in the community. That's what I've been researching and working on for the last 20 years. So I think we try to prepare our teachers to first and foremost get to know kids and families. You can't teach kids you don't know. You can't help families if you don't know what they're going through. And so stabilizing urban schools by connecting with kids and families. If you look across the nation, the most successful urban schools are the ones where the parents are involved, the community's involved, the teachers and principals are there for the long run. They're not coming in and out every couple of years, and they're really committed to being sure the kids are successful.
Go back to the parenting part. I've often, after doing this program in the spring of 2018, working on my wife and I separately working on a language arts project for our 13-year-old who's in the Montclair schools as we speak right now. And she's helping him edit it, and then he types it out, and then I'm editing, and I'm saying, Chris, but Mom just didn't you incorporate that into it? And here's my point. What advice do you have for those of us who want the best, well, that's all of us, for our children, but try to find the balance between looking for excellence, the best our kids can do, and not, dare I just say, getting frustrated.
Right. Yeah, it's hard.
So I know it's not just me.
And every kid is different, and so you come from a family of 4.
They learn differently?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Even within the same family, kids have different learning styles, learning interests. And so I know that parents get frustrated, but I think in today's world, schools are hooked up to parents. There are websites often that parents can go on.
Technology helps?
Yeah, technology helps a lot, yeah. And in some urban communities that we talked about where parents don't have access to the internet. So we find a lot of kids and families have the devices. They have a smartphone, they have an iPad, but sometimes they don't have access to internet at home, and that's detrimental. But going back to your question, I think, I did the same thing. I was a teacher, and my daughter is a writer today, but I made her cry often, editing her paper, Steve,
So a teacher, parent, editing your daughter's paper who became a writer.
Right.
I'm sure it's not a total accident. Challenging?
Really challenging, yeah. She's a science writer, and science was not my forte. And I really, once she got to high school chemistry and physics, I couldn't help her with that. But I know what good writing is. At some point, they have to stand on their own. That you have to let them, dare I say, I don't want to say fail, but, I always if my child came home, like I'm going to tell you, she did come home at the beginning of first week of every school and say, you need to let me out of AP Math. And I'd say, why? She goes, I'm going to fail. Just let me out. Let me out of it right now. And so we would have the talk about, look at all the hard things you've done in your life. You've done this, and you didn't want to do it, or it was hard at first, but you succeeded. And so helping your child work through those times when they're not as successful and saying we pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off and we keep going, and giving them that confidence to move on.
I think about, the kind of parent you were then and the kind of committed you are to education. How much more challenging is it for kids in urban areas without the socioeconomic means, sometimes without the family structure that we're talking about right now, and two parents there sometimes, but with one parent working 2-3 jobs, how much harder is that for a kid?
It's really hard, and I always ask our pre-service teachers, how much do kids have to change to meet the expectations of school, and how much should school think about changing to meet the needs of families today? So one of the things we want to do is help our students understand that housing instability, food insecurity, job insecurity, safety in the neighborhoods, all those impact on.
Are they educational issues?
Of course.
How?
Yeah. Because kids can't learn if they're hungry. Kids can't learn if they're afraid they're going to get beat up on the way to school.
Or get evicted.
Or get evicted. Speaking of which, we did our One Book, One College with the book Evicted this year, and we had Matt Desmond come to campus and give a talk, but all of our students studied that book Evicted and talked about, what does that have to do with my job as a teacher if the kid doesn't come to school tomorrow because he got thrown out of his house today. So, I think that it's incumbent upon us to prepare our school leaders, because we do principal preparation, as you know, school counselors, school psychologists, teachers. Even we have a law enforcement program, law enforcement officials. How do we work together instead of separate? How do we work together for the betterment of kids?
I think it was 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago, I actually taught a weekend course, the doctoral program for, really it was educational, I think it was called administration, but it was really educational leadership. Those who were teachers, principals, moving up, superintendents, key roles. That's important, because you talked about leadership before.
Right, it's really important. And if you think about good schools, what we know from the research is the principal is instructional leader, as role model for the teachers. If the principal's in the community, the teachers are going to say, oh, I need to be out there understanding what's going on. And so my work in Chicago was really around some of the most challenged neighborhoods in Chicago by all these issues: violence, food insecurity, housing insecurity, safety issues. And I think we did an amazing job, and that's what we're working on here. I mean, we have schools we work with in Newark. We have schools we work in with South Orange Maplewood, where the community is working on these issues too.
Well done. This is Dr. Maureen Gillette, Dean of College of Education and Human Services at Seton Hall University. We thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Catch you next time, folks.
Yeah.